All right, what's doing, everybody? Today is Thursday, September 19th. There was a humongous turnout for Donald Trump's rally in New York yesterday, his first rally since the second attempt on his life. The spending bill with that SAVE Act attached did not pass the House yesterday. Kamala Harris did not get the coveted endorsement of the Teamsters Union. Joining me on the podcast today, Congressman Scott Perry, Dr. Carol Swain. I'm Alec Lace. This is the Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
Let's do this. Welcome, everybody, to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored, as always, to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Wherever you're watching the broadcast or listening to it, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, leave a review, whatever you can do to help me out. I'm also streaming today's podcast on my locals. If you want to help support me, support the show and what I'm doing here, please get down there and check out my locals page. If you're watching on Rumble, it's right below the video. Anywhere else, it's in the description of the podcast. All right, so I got good news and bad news for you guys today. The bad news, I promised you guys I would have Congressman Matt Gaetz on the podcast today, and unfortunately, he hit me up and had to make a change in his schedule, so I don't have him on the show today. I try to hold off on those announcements unless I'm pretty sure it's locked in. I had a very good vibe that this was definitely going down. Unfortunately, he had a scheduling change. We're going to try to reconnect. I hope I will get him on the podcast here next week. I'm not going to make that promise again until you actually see him on the podcast. The good news is I have Congressman Scott Perry joining me on the podcast today. So I was definitely wanted to get somebody from Congress to join me here today, especially to talk about this spending bill and that SAVE Act attachment that did not pass the House. So we're going to get into that with Congressman Scott Perry. He's been on the show a few times, so I'm grateful that he'll take the time. I also got Dr. Carol Swain. We're going to get into so much of this DEI and CRT and all this other garbage that's been really just polluting, number one, our school systems in this country, our workforces in this country, and so many different aspects of our lives. So big program for you guys. If you missed out on Tuesday's episode, I had George Papadopoulos here on the podcast. So if you want, flip it back. We talked about his immediate reaction to the second attempt on President Donald Trump's life and so much more. So if you want to go check that out, flip it back one episode and take a listen. And look at this turnout yesterday. This was in Long Island. Thousands and thousands. They had over 60,000 people request tickets to this Donald Trump rally in Long Island yesterday in New York. And here's one of the things. And look at this is from the inside now. You see the amazing turnout. You have to remember something. Donald Trump had a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where not only he was shot, but several people were shot very, very badly, very, very badly wounded at one of his rallies, and Corey Compatore died as a result of an assassin's bullet that was meant for Donald Trump. So you had Trump supporters who were gravely wounded and one who died at one of his rallies. And just 3 days before this New York rally that he held, there was a second attempt on Donald Trump's life. Now, you have to remember, as a Trump supporter, you're going there, you know this is the guy that's got the target on his back. This is the guy that the deep state is after. When you go to a Hillary, listen to me. Hillary might be one of the ones that put the target on him. When you go to a Kamala Harris event, if you're one of the few people that they recruit and bus into those events, you're not thinking, man, there could be something going down here. There could be some shots fired. There could be some kind of, you're not worried about that. But when you go to a Trump rally, this is a very real possibility. So it shows that the MAGA crowd, the Trump supporters, are willing to go despite the fact that there could be some type of danger that happens there. It shows that they trust the security that's going to be there, but also it shows that nothing is going to stop them from showing up to support Donald Trump, who is standing up for them. All right, especially these people sitting right behind them there in the crowd, right? I mean, you've already seen one person killed at a Trump rally, several others severely wounded, and here they are right back there. Here's Trump, I'm here, and there they are. So, I mean, don't think that doesn't mean a lot for these people to show up there, despite the fact that they are trying to take Trump out at every turn. And there was reports before the the rally, that there was a bomb that was there at the rally. That turned out to be a false report. That was a wacky story, though, too, by the way. There was supposedly some guy who was training a canine dog who wasn't supposed to be there, I guess. I don't know. He was a guy just training a canine dog that thought there was a bomb, and he reported it, and it turned out to be not, I don't know. There was a strange story that I'm still not 100% sure of what all went down with that. But thankfully, the rally went off without a hitch. Trump was safe. The supporters were safe. And so I want to hit you guys with a couple of the highlights from the Trump rally. His first rally since being, just since having the second attempt on his life where you had a guy. And I love the people that say, oh, this guy, Ryan Ralph, however you say his name, wasn't trying to kill Donald Trump. There was he didn't shoot any bullets at him. So what is I haven't heard the other explanation for why this guy was on the fence pointing a gun through the fence at Donald Trump's golf course. What was the other reason he was there? These lunatics that say, oh, it wasn't really an attempt. So Donald Trump, they try to take him out again. Here he is in New York City. He's in a bar. He's making on-the-spot, off-the-record appearances, just off the hibbity. Oh, I'm going to stop at this bar. And he's back out there, and he's showing no fear. I mean, this is almost like what Trump is doing here. He is showing the deep state that's trying to take him out. He's saying, hey, you hit me with your best shot? Here I am again. It's almost like that when you're a fighter, when you're a boxer in there, and the guy hits you with his hardest shot, and it doesn't move the needle at all. That all of a sudden starts to put fear into the fighter. Like when you go up to like a Mike Tyson and you hit him with everything you got, and he barely even budges, and he keeps coming forward, you're like, well, now I'm done. I took my best shot, and nothing happened. And so I think that sends a strong message to these people that are trying to take him out. And so here's a couple of the highlights. Trump was on fire yesterday. Here's a few of them.
I am announcing tonight that as president, I will officially make the Ground Zero site at the World Trade Center a national monument, protected and maintained by the United States government, so that hallowed ground and the memory of those who perished there will be preserved for all time, preserved forever. And so I say to the people of New York, with crime at record levels, with terrorists and criminals pouring in, and with inflation eating your hearts out, vote for Donald Trump. What the hell do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? We can do all of this and more, but patriotic New Yorkers must get your asses out to vote. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Harry, get up, Harry. Harry, get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote for Trump today, Harry. Get up, Harry. Come on, let's go. Let's go, Harry.
Trump knows how to work the crowd. And a big announcement that he made yesterday, too, at this rally was that he will be visiting Springfield, Ohio, and he's going to visit Aurora, Colorado. Now, these are two big visits for him because, number one, we know what's going on in Springfield, Ohio with the Haitian immigrants that have come in there and turned that entire town upside down. 20,000 plus illegal immigrants in a town of only 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000. I'm sorry. So it's 50,000 that are there, 20,000 that came in. Something along those lines, a high percentage. They have flipped the entire town on its ear. We know about the eating of the pond ducks and the geese and the pets that go missing. I mean, this town is out of control. Donald Trump is going to be there. I know Vivek Ramaswamy holding a town hall from Springfield, Ohio. Donald Trump will be there. Also, Aurora, Colorado, where you have the Venezuelan gangs that took over these apartment complexes. So this is huge for Trump to show up at these two places. I think it sends a strong message. Number one, that he cares, but number two, that he is highlighting the issues of Kamala Harris, the border czar's open border failure. Now, again, everyone will try to say, especially in the comments, I'm sure I'll get a few of the left-wing nuts that do it here. Oh, she was never the border czar. You're making that all up. The reason why Kamala Harris is trying desperately to get away from the border czar tag, which she was given, which every single left-wing media called her by in the beginning of all this. The reason why they're trying to erase that from the history books is because she has failed so miserably at the border that there's nothing else you can do. Now, if there was a success at the border and there was no problem with illegal immigration and the border was secure, she would be embracing that title. They'd be announcing her on stage. Here comes the candidate, but also the border czar. They'd be calling her that if she was a success at the border. But because she screwed up the border so badly, and she has been such a failure, she is trying to run and distance herself from that title. And so Trump will be there in Springfield, Ohio, and he'll be there in Aurora, Colorado to highlight 2 towns of many that have been destroyed because of the open border and the illegal immigration. And you've heard me on here. I've had plenty of senators and congressmen and women that have come on here and they say, hey, with this open border, every state is a border state. The fentanyl alone has been killing so many innocent Americans. So I think that's an important move for President Trump. I know the Springfield, Ohio mayor said, oh, we're not going to have Trump here because we don't have the resources for it. You don't have the resources. You don't have the resources for Trump. It's going to put a strain on your resources. Yet you have resources for 20,000 illegal immigrants while you got American citizens on the street? What's wrong with that guy? So Trump said, yeah, I'm going to come down there and straighten it out one way or the other. So bravo to him for that. Trump, since he was in New York, he was also on with Gutfield last night on Fox. Here's a few highlights from that.
Would you rule out, I'm not saying now, but would you ever rule out doing reality TV again? Like, what about hosting Love Island?
So, you know, I had The Apprentice for 12 years.
Oh, I know.
14 seasons, but 12 years, a lot of time. They wanted to renew me for 5 years. They were all set to do it, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to run for. I said I wanted to run for president. Mark Burnett, who's a great guy, and you know the producer and all of the people from NBC, everybody came up to see me to talk me out of running. They said it's not possible to win. Nobody's ever done that. I mean, and nobody ever gives up primetime show. It was a big hit, and they wanted to do a 5-year extension. I said no. That's actually when I knew I was going to do it, and I mean, I love doing The Apprentice. It was so successful. The big question is, did it make a difference? Would I have been president? You know, a lot of people say they created this guy from The Apprentice, and I don't know if that's true because they chose me because of the, you know, the success.
I think it was your... It's funny, Waltz is a strange dude.
Oh, he's strange.
He is strange. Crazy. Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
You know, he called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, my house is being surrounded by people with American flags. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, I think they're going to attack me. This was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. You know, they like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000, He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before Truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement, he's a good man, the governor, he's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. Yes. He said it was a miracle. He said it was a miracle.
There you go, Trump on Gutfield last night. Trump goes everywhere, right? You see him all over the place. And no matter whether they're hostile or friendly, he's never afraid to take a question or do an interview or do an appearance. He's doing them everywhere, all over the place. So you've seen him in New York there. I showed the clip. You know, he was in the bar. He's been promoting the cryptocurrency. Crypto, obviously, the whole crypto world is like a world unto itself. And I think it's an important aspect that he's tying into now, another a community to reach. I think it's been huge. And I know that digital currency, I mean, I don't know whether we like it or not, but I could be honest with you here. I can't remember the last time I actually held cash in my hand. I mean, I don't even use it anymore. We are definitely headed towards a cashless society here, unfortunately. But I always was one of those guys that was like, I'm not using the Apple Pay and the Venmo and all that. I remember being like, I ain't doing any of that. You know, credit card, debit card, yeah, I'll use those. Now that's all I use, Apple Pay all the time. I primarily use it. So I don't even have cash on me at all, ever. I don't even remember ever using it. I haven't used it in a long time. So I think it's important that he reaches out to the crypto community, just not to sidestep there. Now, one of the big things that happened yesterday was the Teamsters. Now, this was terrible, I think, in some ways, and in some ways, very good. So there's a little bit of a little bit of a dichotomy here with this. The Teamsters Union announces yesterday that they are not going to endorse one of the candidates for president. Now, why is this important? The Teamsters Union, which has 1.3 million union members, is primarily always endorsed the Democrat candidate. The Teamsters Union has endorsed Obama twice. Both times he ran, they endorsed him. They endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, and they endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. This year, they're not going to endorse a candidate. You know why they're not going to endorse it? Now, this is a big blow to Kamala Harris. Make no mistake about it. But here's the reason why they're not going to endorse a candidate. Here's their research poll from the Teamsters. Of their members, 58% are for Donald Trump, 31% for Kamala Harris. Here's another member poll. 59.6% of the members for Trump, 34% for Harris. So very similar in these two polls. One conducted, I think, in August. One conducted just recently here in September. One was a phone poll, and the other one a member poll. So 60% of the membership is for Trump. Now, out of 1.3 million, that's a lot of people that are for Donald Trump. And that's the reason why they can't endorse Kamala Harris, because your members are not there. They do not want Kamala Harris. And I've been saying this on the podcast for a long time. As a union worker myself, now I'm not in the Teamsters Union, but I am in the union. And I've been a union worker for over 24 years. I'm in my 25th year working in the union on the railroad. And I'm telling you, I have seen this monumental shift. The union members primarily are always told, we're always told by leadership, by membership, the membership is always told by leadership to vote Democrat, that we're encouraged to vote Democrat. I'm telling you, I've never seen a shift like this, where you have people who are now going to be voting red for the first time in their lives, and they have turned. Most of the people that I know on the union are voting for Donald Trump, in the union are voting for Donald Trump. And as you can see with the Teamsters, they are doing the same thing as well. It's only the top brass, the top leadership that wants to, because they're the ones that are getting the kickbacks and the money. They're the ones that make the deals, right? That's why you see these the people up there in the office, the people up there with the suits on. We're going to tell you to vote for Kamala Harris because they got some kind of backdoor deal going on, and that's really what's going on there. The people that are on the street, the people that are at the construction sites, the people that are the working class, they want nothing to do with Kamala Harris because they're the ones that are going to the grocery store. They're the ones that are filling up their tank. They're the ones that haven't taken their family on vacation in 3 years, and they're sick and tired of it. And so this was a huge blow to Kamala Harris to not get this endorsement. And it's a big thing for Trump, but they should have endorsed Donald Trump. That's what the membership is there. The membership's telling you this is who we want. We want Trump, but the leadership can't do it. But even though despite it's not a complete victory for Trump, it is a huge loss for Kamala Harris. So I think that was an important news story yesterday. All right, so obviously now I'm going to talk with Congressman Perry here. The spending bill that had the SAVE Act attached to it failed to pass the House yesterday. There were 14 members of the Republicans that voted it down, along with almost every Democrat. Here's the Republicans who voted against passing the CR with the SAVE Act. I'll read them right down and put them on the screen for you. Banks, Biggs, Boebert, Burchett, Crane, Gates, Hunt, Lamborn, Mace, Mills, Rogers, Rosendale, Stube, and Van Dunn. All right, so now why this is important here, number one, now I'm going to bring Congressman Perry on. He's going to get into this a lot more. But from my perspective, before we get into this here, the SAVE Act has already been passed and already sitting in the Senate, okay? So the SAVE Act it requires you to show ID to vote. Why this isn't a part of the regular Constitution, I know. Now, of course, it's illegal. It's already in the Constitution that you have to be a citizen to vote. We know that. But we have so many cases where you have illegal immigrants that are registering to vote, that have voted in the federal elections. So there should be a law on the books that you have to show ID to vote. That has got to get passed. Now, the theory here was to attach it to the spending bill. This way they can sneak it through, and if you want your spending bill, okay, we're going to get something for us. Now, this is something that in part of the ways I like it, because it's like, you know what? This is, if you want to keep pork barreling these bills, here's something for us to get. The problem is, it's just more spending, and what's going to happen is it's going to get to the Senate, they're going to kick it back to the House and say, here it is without the SAVE Act. Pass it and put it through. And that's going to be the game. So is this going to go anywhere? I don't think so. But that's why I want to talk to Congressman Perry. He voted for this to pass. So he is the a representative of the 10th District in Pennsylvania. So we're going to talk about the spending bill. I want to get his take on the Trump assassination attempt and more. All right. So Congressman Scott Perry, let's bring him on.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, here we go. Joining me now, Congressman Scott Perry. Welcome back to the Alec Lay Show.
Good to be with you. Awesome day.
Well, let's start right here. Obviously, you had 14 of your colleagues voted with the Democrats to stop the funding bill, the stopgap bill, with the SAVE Act attached. What's your reaction to that? What's your take?
Well, I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. Look, the members, they don't want to vote for something that they voted against, right? The spending and the policy that comes with the CR. The problem is that we're going to get a CR anyhow, the continuing resolution, because the Senate hasn't done any appropriations bills. They're not interested in doing any because they want the continuing resolution, which is then followed by the omnibus. So that's all their plans. So the only way to stop that is to kind of meet them and beat them at their own game, essentially give them what they want and say, but you got to accept the SAVE Act on it, which of course compels or requires states to verify the citizenship of their voters. We just couldn't get some guys there. It just wasn't, I guess it wasn't worth it to them. They think that the fix is already in or whatever, or they don't want to be on record of having, from their standpoint, they're saying, well, I'm not voting to bankrupt the country. And they're not wrong. But now the Democrats are going to help Republicans to vote to bankrupt the country anyhow without the SAVE Act in it. That's what's going to happen next.
The whole thing is a mess, Congressman. I know last week I had your colleague, Congresswoman Sparks, on. We were talking about this. She was bringing up that exact point, and it was so frustrating to her, as I can only imagine it is to you and the rest of the people up there. But the whole point is, I know that the counterpoint is that the SAVE Act is already sitting in the Senate. It hasn't gotten passed. Right. There's no faith to believe that they would pass this continuing resolution if the SAVE Act was attached. So it just seems like it's going to be bounced back now to Speaker Johnson. Does he keep this SAVE Act attached to it? What do you think is Speaker Johnson's play here at this point? Because he's kind of in a pickle between a government shutdown and putting the SAVE Act back in there.
Right. Here's the situation. No one wants a government shutdown, but unless you're willing to kind of risk that, and when I say you, the speaker, unless the leadership, which reflects the membership, unless they're willing to risk that, the Senate knows that all the Democrats are going to vote for more spending. They know that immediately. And they know that there's a certain amount of Republicans that don't want to withstand the criticism, because understand, you have a choice of either voting for this bad bill or being accused of shutting down the government. There's no bill that says, I voted yes to shut down the government. But that's how it's going to be characterized in an ad against you. And so these members don't want to see that ad. And so Chuck Schumer knows that. The Democrats know that. And so the only thing left to do is to send over essentially whatever the Democrats want. Now, that's what's left to do, because other than that, it's going to be a government shutdown. My point is that we should attach the CR to the SAVE Act. I don't like the CR, but I'll take the SAVE Act and convince members that if they pass it, we will go home and not come back. And so what's happening now, the Senate's basically saying, take it or leave it, right? But the House needs to say, for once, forever, anytime, ever, take it or leave it. But the House never says that. The Senate always says that and gets away with it. The House is always scared to say that. We should have, and members don't believe the House will say it. A certain amount of those members that voted no don't believe that. If they believe that the House would pass it and go home, I think they might have voted for it, but they have no faith that that's what we'll do.
I think that's a bullseye, Congressman. I believe that too. There is no faith. It always seems like it's on defense. There's never offense on our side. And I do agree with that. But with the SAVE Act, they make it sound like this is voter suppression. Here was the headline from the Rolling Stone. Trump calls for government shutdown unless Congress makes it harder to vote. So in this article, it says 1 in 10 adults, 21 million voters, don't have access to documents that could prove their citizenship. So the question is, how do you know they're citizens then? I mean, how crazy is this whole thing?
Yeah, somehow all these people living in America can find documents to get on an airplane, can find documents to go to the liquor store, can find documents to buy cigarettes, can find documents to go to the bank and get a check cash. They can find documents to do every single one of those things, but they can't find documents to vote. And you know why they can't find documents to vote? Because they're probably here illegally and they don't have documents that will allow them to vote, which is the point. It's not voter suppression. It's suppression of illegal votes that aren't supposed to be votes in the first place.
Yeah, it's actually securing the election is what it is.
Yes,
it's not suppression, it's security. And,
right.
and just to your point there, too, it's like they say it's not. Number one, they say it's not happening. There's no evidence that it's happening. Well, if it's not happening and it's not a problem, then why not just pass it anyway? And number two, they're saying like it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote, but it's already illegal for underage kids to go and buy booze, but we still require you to show ID as proof. I mean, this whole thing, it just seems like it's an excuse to allow non-citizens to vote. I mean, let's be honest. That's what this is.
That's all it is. Look, we have speed limit laws, but we also have police, right? We don't just put the sign up on the highway and think that everybody's going to obey the law, because certain people aren't going to obey the law. That's why we have police. There is no one enforcing this, by the way, which is the problem. And of course, there are people illegally registered to vote that are here illegally. That claim is completely, absolutely false. And first of all, that look, how many times are we going to have to be lied to? President Obama said that illegals would not receive Obamacare, right? The Affordable Health Care Act. Yet the Biden administration moved a rule through the administrative state to allow people that are here illegally to receive Obamacare. These people that are here illegally are getting driver's licenses that are attached to motor voters. So you get the driver's license, you're registered to vote. Why are we registering people to vote that are here illegally if not to have them vote? They're on the rolls. We've seen them on the rolls. We had to have them taken off the rolls. No one is policing any of this. No one is checking. No one is investigating, because the people that are in charge of investigation, like governors, like Josh Shapiro, aren't interested in investigating because they're not interested in stopping it, because it's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, and Congressman, that's what I've been saying all along. This open border, Kamala Harris, the border czar, the failure there, it has never been about helping the poor, struggling illegal immigrant. It has only been about helping the Democrats stay in power. That's the game plan. That's what they're doing here by having this storm the border and have these people register to vote. Last point on this, and then we'll move on quickly here. Speaker Johnson is going to go back to his lap here. Does he hold the line? Does he keep the SAVE Act attached? What do you think is his next play?
Well, I don't think he's going to. He's going to say that we can't get the votes for it. And the votes are going to come from Democrats, right? I'm not going to vote for a clean CR that just enshrines the policies and the spending that I voted against in the spring. The reason I would vote for that is because the SAVE Act was attached. But when the SAVE Act was attached, there were members that said, well, that's a dead on arrival at the Senate, so I can't vote for that because the government will shut down. Like, the speaker is in a tough position, but I still think that he should have just told our conference, we're going to vote on this at the end of September, and we're going to send this hot potato over to the Senate and force them to swallow it down, or have them be accused of shutting the government down. But you've got to have the will to do that. You have to have the courage to do that. And our conference just simply doesn't. And of course, the speaker has to reflect that as well. But one other thing I wanted to tell you, it's not just about the votes. It's also about apportionment. All these people here illegally are being counted in the census, and that counts for how many representatives come from each state. And they're loading up the states that they want to load up with these voters and these people that are being counted in the census, so that they can get more congressional seats, so that they can win the House, so Americans don't have a voice. Immigration is supposed to be good for America. It's great when it's good for the immigrant, but what about American citizens? This is their country. How is it good for them?
Yeah, you're 100% right. This is why they're sending shiploads of illegal immigrants to certain spots all across the country, because it does redistrict and it does help them in that way. So the whole thing is a disaster, and we know it. Let me move on now, if I could, to just recently now, Sunday, you had a second attempt on President Donald Trump's life, 64 days after the first one. And to think that this could happen again, now he gets the full board of the Secret Service. Now they say, now we're going to give you the whole shooting match. Why that didn't happen after the first attempt, I don't understand. But what was your reaction and your take to this second attempt on the president's life?
Well, look, it's just an indicator of how far the Secret Service has fallen. Let's just face it. It's a failure. I mean, apparently in this country now, you have to have 2 failed assassination attempts as the former president and as the nominee of one of the 2 major parties in the country. You have to suffer through that before you get adequate Secret Service protection. It is outrageous. And look, there are a lot of questions. This guy has no money for his defense, apparently, or allegedly lived in Hawaii, but somehow he traveled, to Florida. Who paid the plane ticket? Where did he get a car? How did this guy, who's got, I think he's a felon, how did he get a weapon? Who provided the weapon, or how did he get the weapon? How did he know the president was going to be golfing that day? Did you know? I didn't know. Did anybody? Is he privy to the president's schedule? There's a lot of open questions here, and I got to tell you, we're now 2 months after Butler. We don't have any answers. The FBI refuses to give Congress any answers. They're slow rolling us, and I just don't have. Look, I don't think many Americans have much faith in the upper management of the Secret Service. I think that the agents on the ground around President Trump want to do their job, but I think they're probably being hamstrung by political people at the top who have a different viewpoint and want to see a different outcome in this election. It is very disturbing to me. And the fact that, we don't have these answers leads to a lot of people thinking up things on their own, which is also dangerous. And it is not, it doesn't provide any confidence in the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security. Citizens just don't have any confidence in them anymore, and they've created this themselves.
And just to your point there, too, this guy, he's traveling, not just across the country. He's traveling over to Ukraine. He's traveling over to Europe. He's recruiting Taliban fighters. This is a guy that's had, like you said, a felon. He's a guy that's had charges of weapons of mass destruction on his record. How is a guy like this moving freely all over the place without any intelligence eyes on him? A lot of questions. But also, as you said there, no faith in the Secret Service to protect President Trump. Look at how just how much the people love Donald Trump, that they know the target's on his back. And last night, Donald Trump, they have thousands and thousands of Trump supporters come out there to see Donald Trump, who's still out there, still campaigning despite 2 attempts on his life. Everyone attending that rally, they know, man, this could happen again, yet they're there to support the man that they want to see become president again.
Yeah, they're there, and they're not only there, they're standing right beside him and right behind him, right? So, look, you don't know where a bullet's going to go once it leaves the chamber, but those people are willing to stand behind Donald Trump, who's willing to go out and put his life in jeopardy. It's a testimony to not only him, but to the American people that support him in the face of continuous negative coverage, lies about him, and the communications arm of the left, which is the mainstream media, who just disparages him 24 hours a day, and yet he still has this kind of support. Just imagine how much support he would have if the media actually were truthful and fair about the coverage about him and his opponents. Just imagine what it would be like.
I couldn't imagine. And I can't imagine how he does it. I think most people are just amazed at how this guy is doing this and continues to move forward like this. It's really, really admirable. It's just really amazing what he's doing. Last topic here, just because I know we're coming against the clock. Your state, Pennsylvania, here is one of the keys to this entire thing here. So what is the big key issue in Pennsylvania? How has this Kamala Harris administration hurt the people there in Pennsylvania? How do you see it?
Well, the key issue is that the people of Pennsylvania can't afford their lives. They can't afford their groceries, up about $100 a month, gasoline and travel up about $250 a month. I mean, every single thing in their cost of living is up. Daycare, you just name it. They're paying more, and they don't have the money. Credit card bills are maxed out. They're paying for the groceries on credit cards, which is not a sustainable future. And Kamala Harris has done nothing to tell them how their lives are going to get better. Now, at the same time, Pennsylvania is known for kind of strange things during elections, and we think we're going to see some of that stuff again. The Secretary of State just makes decisions on their own without following the law. The Department of State is actually not following the law on many cases right now. So the same stuff is at stake in Pennsylvania. It's going to be a tight race. It's going to be a battle. I'm at ground zero in my race, lying that my opponent is lying about me every single day continuously. The DCCC has loaded her up with money. And so she's got millions and millions of dollars against me. I'm a working man that counts on the support from the people that are around me. I don't raise money in Washington, D.C., and we're not wealthy people. My opponent's got George Soros supporting her. And so, look, this is going to be a battle royale, not only for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but it is the Keystone State for the rest of the country, whether Donald Trump is the victor or whether we fall into the socialist abyss that is Harrison Waltz.
Yeah. Well said, Congressman. Hit the listeners where they can go to support you. Close it out here.
So they can go to Rep. Scott Perry officially, and they can go to Patriots for Perry if they want to help me on the campaign side.
All right, Congressman Scott Perry, I'm honored that you take the time here to spend with me. Every time I ask, you oblige, so I really do appreciate that. Thanks again for taking a few minutes today to join me on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you. Keep going.
All right, honored to have Congressman Scott Perry on the podcast. What do you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Get involved in the live chat if you're watching on Rumble. What do you guys think? Going back to the spending bill, and the SAVE Act, this is a no-brainer, and I've never heard a good excuse as to why you shouldn't have to show ID to vote, other than it's racist. And so this is something that should definitely be, especially today's day and age with the open border so bad, you got to have something in there that where you have to show ID. And the Democrats are like, it's already illegal. Yeah, I know. A lot of things are already illegal, but you have got to show ID to get in there and make a vote. I mean, that's it. Bottom line. That's got to get in there. How to do that is you got to win the House and you got to win the Senate. That's the bottom line. So if we win all three of those things, that change will be made. So that's why not only is it important to get Donald Trump back in the White House, it's important to win this bigger lead in the House and to take over the Senate. I mean, if we can get that done, there'll be voter ID will be a law of the land. You could better believe that. All right, so let's switch gears here. I'm honored to get Dr. Carol Swain on the podcast now. Listen, one of the things that that bothers the heck out of everybody, I think, is this DEI and this woke culture that has just poisoned so many different aspects of our society. And we know what's going on with the school systems, with the CRT. Everything has been just turned upside down because of these left-wing lunatics. And believe me, there's no bigger thorn in the side of a liberal, especially the educated liberal, than Dr. Carol Swain. Okay, her introduction is way too much to get into right here. I'll give you a brief summary of it. She is a retired professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University. She was a high school dropout that went on to earn 5 degrees, including a PhD from University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She's also got an MSL from Yale. She's an award-winning author. It's always an honor when I get a chance to speak to somebody like this. Dr. Carol Swain, I tried setting this up quite a while ago. I'm honored to get her on the podcast today. So we got a lot to get into. I got a short window. I'm going to hit what I can. Let's do this.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right. Joining me now, Dr. Carol Swain. Welcome to the Alec Lace Show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here. I wanted to get into some of this DEI stuff with you if we could. And one of the things is I was on Fox News several times and referred to Kamala Harris as a DEI vice president. And I got a ton of blowback for that, went viral for it, called a racist and the whole bit. But in Joe Biden's own words, in my opinion, he said outright, I'm going to pick a woman. And there was pressure on him to pick a woman of color, which to me seems to be the very definition of the DEI. So what's your take? Is Kamala Harris a DEI vice president?
She definitely is. And I'm sure that there are Black women in America who would have been more qualified. But it troubles me that race has been attached to the qualifications of important positions where experience really counts. And so when you look at Kamala Harris, other than the fact that she has managed to have, quote, relationships with powerful people, there's no evidence that she's been successful at anything that she's done. And so I think that the focus on DEI harms women as well as racial and ethnic minorities and members of the LGBTQ community, because homosexuals have always lived and worked among us. They didn't feel the need to announce it, and many of them live quiet lives now. But when you pick flamboyant people because they openly identify with a particular group, then I think you set back progress.
Yeah, well said. And I kind of even go back to like even like childhood when we were like playing street football, like and we were picking teams for who was going to play on our team. We didn't pick people based on what color they were, who they were attracted to. We picked on someone who could catch the ball. You know, we wanted somebody who could tackle somebody. That was the most important thing. Like, are you good
I
at
agree.
doing this?
I agree. As the person who was never picked, I was always the last person they were forced to pick when I was in grade school. But I have a friend who is in her 60s, and she always played on the boys' team. They chose her because she was good.
Yeah, and you even look back to like somebody like a Michael Jordan, who he was cut from his high school basketball team. And who knows if he had not been cut from that team and just said, oh, we'll just get him on here because he's a black kid, we'll let him make the team. Maybe he doesn't get that fire in him to say, you know what, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And look what happens to him. He turns out to be the best. So sometimes that adversity, because you're not good enough, makes you overcome it and become even better. But you're crippling people by just letting them get away with it just because of who they are. I think you're doing them a disservice.
You are, and I can tell you from my own experience that when people told me that I couldn't do something, boy, was I going to show them that I could. And for myself, you know, I've been highly successful within academia and graduated from my four-year college, magna cum laude, even though I was a high school dropout. And I was smart enough to see the environment and to figure out at some point that a high achieving minority could go far, because during the era that I came through, there was an effort to identify high achieving minorities. And so now they pretend as if high achieving minorities don't exist. So you have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find people who self-identify. And and it's not just me, there are millions of minorities and I would say members of the LGBTQ community that have been very successful. They didn't do it by focusing on their identities.
And I also think, too, it's just simply like even when Joe Biden was going to appoint President Biden was going to appoint his Supreme Court justice, he outright said, I'm picking a woman of color. So right there, any judge across the country that was top qualified is like, okay, I'm out now. Not because I'm not the best person that could be. And these jobs don't come around very often. Your opportunity now is gone just because you don't fit the suit. You don't fit the criteria that they're looking for. Not because you're the best qualified, just because you don't fit the right color and the right gender, you're out. And to me, that's right. Crazy to do that.
And you know something, no matter what people say about J.D. Vance, I believe he was the right selection to be President Trump's vice president. And they had set up an environment that almost forced people. In fact, many Republicans went along with it. It has to be a woman, it has to be a racial and ethnic minority, can't be a white male. And so he chose a white male. And I think that was important for Americans. And so there was a time when we wanted racial and ethnic minorities to see high achieving racial and ethnic minorities so they could aspire to those positions. Well, we have created an environment where being a white male is a disadvantage. And so you see little white children, and I have friends, you know, that have sons. And I think about those young men and the world that we have created that's so unfair to them because they're being denigrated for things their ancestors may or may not have done.
And you know, one of the things, Dr. Carroll, that I focus on so much, I host a separate show called First Class Fatherhood, where I've had over 750 of some of the most famous people in the world just talking about fatherhood. And the fact that we have destroyed the family unit in this country, we have so many kids growing up without a father in the home. We've destroyed faith, so we don't have the Heavenly Father in our society. We don't have the dad in the home. And I think those two things have really crippled our country. When you combine that now where you have the education system that now has free reign to these kids and they're poisoning them with these philosophies, I think it's only going to do more damage. I don't think, unless we can get more dads back in the home and maybe some God back into our lives, I don't think no matter what we do politically, we're going to have a chance to succeed in the country. What's your take on that?
I agree. And I believe all of this was by deliberate design. It goes back to the Marxism and the communist ideal. And we know that among communists, you know, God is seen as the enemy. The state wants to be the father. The state wants to run the families. The state wants to control the people. And as a consequence, we see that around the world, communism and Marxism, it's always failed. And here in America, we have become so socialist, and we are, one step away from communism. It is failing here as it failed around the world.
And there's no chance for it to succeed. It's a dead end. So the more that they keep pushing it, the worse it's going to become. There's no chance for this is going to say, oh, and they always try to say this, our form of socialism is different. This one hasn't been tried yet. They try to bring this up.
It will never work. And I can also tell you that the problems affecting America are spiritual problems, not political problems. Our culture has moved in the wrong direction. And the people who control our government and the media and the institutions of power, they are they seem to all be in one step when it comes to destroying America. And the controversy as we talk about these Haitians that are being dropped in rural communities across America, that's by design. And you think about, Christian America, and you bring in voodoo, Satan worshipers, and drop them in third world nation, and you don't tell them they have to assimilate. You don't set them down and say, in this country, we don't do certain things. This is being deliberately done, and I believe it's being done to provoke racial incidents, because in the case of the Haitians, they are Black, they are poor, and poor people, and they're from a different culture, a very different dog-eat-dog culture, and you drop them into a first world nation, into communities, and of course they're going to be committing crimes and doing things that was okay in their culture, but it's not okay here. And so you're going to have people that will defend themselves, and it's going to be a racial incident because they're putting them in the communities that are predominantly Republican, predominantly white, predominantly rural, and it's hurting everyone. Racial and ethnic minorities, the people who live there, and it's not even fair to the people that they're bringing to America, dropping them in, thinking that down the road they'll have future voters for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're redistricting some of these areas, and they're strategically placing people all across the country in order to do that. And too, like you said, they come from a different culture. There's a reason why you've never seen 40 years of Wheel of Fortune them give away a trip to Haiti, right? You know what I mean? There's a reason why they don't do things like that. But even, I don't know if you've seen this, but this is how the liberals have been so poisoned with the wokeness, is that you actually had the dad of that kid in Ohio that was killed tragically in that bus accident, an illegal alien Haitian killed him. He's doing 12 years, 9 years in prison for it. But the dad actually said, I wish it had been a 60-year-old white man that did it. I mean, who in the world would ever think you would hear a father say something like that? It just shows how poisonous this philosophy is.
It is totally poisonous. And to think that in America, we would have a political party that was just so focused on dividing people. And I think it's because the secular culture that's rooted in the Marxist philosophy, there is no place for God. There is no place for morality and ethics, and they use people. And so they're using that father. They poison our children, and they destroy families because that's what they're all about. And so the American people, unless they are somehow snapped out of that deception that's deceived so many people, I don't see our way back. And maybe there isn't supposed to be a way back, because for Christian believers who read the whole Bible and know the prophecies, that read the book of Revelation, America has to fall. It's not going to end well. And we see how America falls. It's through immolation, I'm saying that word wrong, but suicide, because we have made the decisions, our leaders, to destroy our nation.
There's no question about it. Even when we see what's going on in the school system, we also have we have the CRT that's going through, but we also have the fact that you have teachers now that are given the permission to keep secrets from the parents. Yes. So it's when you have a society that accepts that, we're in danger. This is why I think the parents are going to be the key to this entire election in November, because I think unless you're this far left liberal that's got the Trump derangement syndrome and you're a parent, you cannot go along with this. What parent in their right mind would say, I'm going to consent that teachers can keep secrets about my child in the classroom? I mean, they got to draw the line somewhere, but to do that, that is barbaric to do something like that.
Well, clearly, there's a lot of deception, and I see these polls that say that women are supporting Kamala Harris. And I don't believe that mothers, aunties, grandmothers, that sisters are actually, they may be telling the posters that they support Kamala, but at the end of the day, I think many of them are going to look at their family situation, they're going to look at America, and they're not going to vote for someone that's clearly a DEI appointee. And I like what, I don't know who came up with this, as DEI means didn't earn it. Kamala did not earn it. And in my book, The Adversity of Diversity, which was published last year, I argued that DEI programs would fall the same way as race-based affirmative action in college admissions, because these programs violate our civil rights laws and the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, and they don't accomplish their intended goals. They are based on a conflict model. They pit Americans against one another. You can never bring reconciliation and healing out of conflict. And whether it's the business area or higher education, K through 12, the programs are poisonous, they're divisive, they're destructive, and there is a better way. As I argue in my book, The Adversity of Diversity, we can have integrated settings. We can have diversity. Integration used to be the goal. And with integration, you brought people into a setting. They became a part of the whole. They became a part of the team. They were not out there fighting to be separate. And so I think if our goal is integration and to have people from different backgrounds and education, ideological views, different parts of the country, if it really is to bring people together who are different, we can achieve that without discrimination.
And I think at the bottom, the end of the day, I think we just want the best person for the job, especially if we're going in for like an operation. We don't want the doctor that's there because of his color or his gender or his orientation. We want the guy there because he's good at what he does and because he's going to be able to get the operation. Same thing when you get on a plane. You don't care with the pilot who he likes to sleep with. You just want to know, can this guy get the plane back on the ground safely? That's all we care about. And it's when
you're right.
We turned it into this whole other thing where it's like, no one wants this. Like, but it just seems like it's one set. It's this Marxist ideology that's pressing it, and people have fallen asleep and are just going along with this. And even you have Kamala Harris. No one voted for this woman. She tried to run the first time, 0 votes. They dropped out before the primaries. This time, 0 votes in the primaries. Yet all of a sudden, she's the nominee. And then everyone's like, yeah, we're going to go along. It's crazy.
I don't understand why Democrats would go along with that. I don't understand how you get all these governors and people that I know are ambitious that could have done a better job saying that this is okay. It's not okay. I don't understand why college and university professors, the political scientists, the law professors, the philosophers who are Democrats, why would they go along with this? With the media, do they have any self-respect or any integrity? Why would they go along with this? It's a sad day in America that we have a country where people are so fearful that they are unwilling to speak up because they think they may lose something. I believe they would gain far more if they showed some courage, like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, when he decided that he wanted to make America great again. And just various people, the minorities like myself who are conservative, many of us are Christians, we are speaking up. And there's a cost to be paid, but there is a greater benefit when you are doing something not for yourself, but for your nation as a whole and for your people and for God. And I believe that the godly thing to do is not to roll over and allow evil to have its day without some opposition from the righteous.
Yeah, very well said. And it seems like Donald Trump is polling better with minorities than any other Republican candidate has throughout history. And it does boggle my mind, Dr. Carroll, here that you have Democrats have the black vote for decades, and the black voter has consistently gone Democrat, despite the fact that there's been no improvement in a lot of these black communities, these black dominated cities. You're talking about 50, 60 years worth of straight Democrat rule and no improvement. Wouldn't you think you'd say, well, wait a minute, we've tried this for 6 decades and nothing has improved. Why don't we try something else? I mean, that to me is very, very confusing.
Well, it's not confusing to me because when I wrote my book some years ago, Black Faces, Black Interests, Representation of African Americans in Congress, I traveled around with Black and white members of Congress. And I saw among white Democrats as well as Black Democrats, a lot of money gets exchanged during the election season. And they have all these events where you can get a free fish sandwich and you get fed and people get money. They call it walking around money. They actually pay people to pay them better than Republicans do to knock on doors, or the pastors that go to the churches and, they kind of pay off the pastors. And so the leaders get fat during the election season. So a lot of Black Democrat leaders, they love elections because it's a way for them. Oh, and they charge money to endorse. When I ran for mayor, there were people in the Black community that said they loved my platform. I'm talking about the leaders, and they would endorse me, but it would cost $20,000. I would not pay for someone's endorsement, and I don't sell my own endorsement. And so I wasn't in for it, but the Democrats have plenty of money, and so they buy off the leaders.
Incredible. What a shame, man. And so I know I'm up against the clock here. What do you got working on? Where can the people go to find you? And what do you got coming up over there with what you're working with?
Well, I am very active on X, Twitter. And I would encourage people that there are engaging conversations that take place there. It's not like Facebook. It's not like Getter. It's not like Truth Social. And so people that like what I do, they want to support me, follow me on X and subscribe to my platform. And my handle is Carol M. Swain. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on all the major platforms. But every day I'm putting out information on X and I'm engaging in conversations with people. And I'm responding because a lot of the Kamala and things from the left kept showing up in my timeline. And I didn't know why, but it turns out that if you comment on them and engage them, you get more of them. And at first I was offended, but then I decided that, hey, this is good. And so I engage with the left when they put out their lies. I respond to it. And a lot of times they don't block my posts. So it gives their followers something else to think about. So I'm actively involved there. And I'm working on my memoir, as well as a book about academic integrity in higher education, focusing on the plagiarism in particular.
Well, awesome stuff. I love the work that you do. And you're right about X. I find myself, despite all the other social platforms, that's where I am. And you are responsive. That's how I was able to set this interview up. I hit you on X. So keep up the good work. I'd love to have you on again back down the line. Dr. Carol Swain, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Alec Lay Show.
Thank you.
All right. Such an honor that I get an opportunity to speak to somebody like Dr. Carol Swain. I really appreciate her giving me a few minutes of her time here on the Alec Lay Show. What'd you guys think about that interview? Such a bright woman, and just honored. I mean, I'm at her, she's way out of my league. So it's so cool that I get an opportunity because of you, the listener out there, to continue to do this and to speak to people like Dr. Carol Swain. I think she's right on point. I think that and listen, this whole thing has got to come back to the dinner table. It's got to come back to the home. It's got to come back to the nuclear family. And that's where the changes are going to be made in our society. I think there's no doubt about it. And this, as for this DEI, I think it's a disgrace. I think it's a disgrace. Best man for the job, best woman for the job, and that's the way we need to do this stuff. And I think no matter any other way is ridiculous. Judged by the content of somebody's character, not the color of their skin. Can we get into that? Is that so hard to do? These left-wingers want nothing to do with that motto at all. They want to take that. Here's 2 sentences I can tell you right now that the Democrat Party wants to take away from the history books. If they could rewrite history, they would take these two phrases and they would throw them in the trash can of history. They would never allow that sentence to be in the history books. The one that says people should be judged on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. They would take that quote and they would throw it in the ash can of society, in the ash can of history, and it would be obliterated. You'd never hear it again. They hate that quote. The other quote they hate is, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. They want to take that quote and they want to throw it into the ash can of history. They want to wipe them off every textbook, every school book. They do not want you to ever hear those two phrases because they do not want to live up to those two. And that's why you've seen so many people like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, walking away from the Democrat Party because it is a shell of what it used to stand for. I wanted to hit on real quick this whole P. Diddy thing, because everything going on politically here, it almost kind of snuck under the radar there. P. Diddy gets arrested. We know they raided his home last year over the summer or whatever it was. Now they've indicted him. They arrested him. This guy's tied into all kinds of crazy shit. I don't even know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of it. But here's the key point of this. Is he going to be killed in prison? Is he going to be Epsteined? That seems like the likely case. Will he give up the goat? I wish that this guy would have made a video or did a live stream before, as they were outside the door to come arrest him. I wish he would have just went live and just dropped every name involved in all this sex trafficking, child trafficking, and all this stuff. But it seems like we always get a runaround. And you get your hopes up, oh, they got P. Diddy. Okay, are we going to get the names? And I don't care if the names are just history professors or if they are A-list celebrities, right? I don't care if they're garbage men or they are political figureheads, heads of state. I don't care. I just want to finally see somebody pay the price for all of the trafficking that is happening in our country and around the world. It's like we know it's a multi-billion-dollar industry and no one seems to be paying the price for this thing. So what's going to happen with the P. Diddy story? I don't know. I mean, it just seems like we're getting set up to say, oh, look, it's been how many years since the Epstein thing happened, and we still have no idea who was in the black book, who was actually on Epstein Island that was, trafficking in and doing horrible things to little kids. We have no clue. And we could be voting for these people. These are people we could be rooting for in movies or cheering on in sports, but we have no idea who they are. So what's your take on the P. Diddy thing? Just more a whole big nothing burger that's ever going to happen, or what? Are we going to get any kind of information? Because we know it's not a one-man band with P. Diddy. We know there's many people involved. Does he give up the GOAT? Do others start to fall? Do we finally peel back the curtain on this lucrative child sex trafficking ring that's penetrated the entire globe? I don't know. I hope so. And here was one other thing, too. I'll put this up. This was from even CNN to report this yesterday. Iranian hackers sent stolen Trump campaign information to the Biden campaign. So there you go. Election interference from Iran trying to help the Biden campaign. I know we heard so much about the, also too, Iran, their backed Hezbollah, their terrorist group, got just destroyed by Israel with these pagers and these radios. Which they apparently they rigged them and then shipped them, and all these Hezbollah people got these devices, and then they detonated, and you got like thousands of people that got maimed, hundreds or however many got killed. I don't know. This is a whole different style of warfare we never seen before. Right now, imagine that you get a phone in the mail. And it rings and you pick it up and it blows up in your face. Like, that's what's happened to all these people over there. So Israel doesn't seem to be fooling around. This is a totally different type of warfare. But not to navigate the story here, Iranian hackers sent this stolen Trump campaign information. They do not want Donald Trump in the White House either. They're doing what they can to help out the other side. We know Russia is doing what they can to help out the other side. If you're an enemy of this country, the last thing you want to do is put Donald Trump in charge of it. That's the last thing you want to see. You want this nice, we're going to play ball, we're just as corrupt as you are, Democrat Party to be in the White House. You don't want Trump in there that's looking to upset the apple cart, right? And bring peace to the Middle East and bring peace to the Russia-Ukraine war. Why do you think this Ukraine nut wanted to shoot him too, right? Who put this guy in position to make the shot? They got a guy that's fired up with this Ukraine nonsense. Oh, Trump's a threat to this. The money laundering is going to stop. We can't let that happen. Because because he wants peace. because he wants to see people to stop dying. And they're like, no, we can't have that. We can't have Trump in there to do that. We got to keep that war machine going. So we are closing in on Election Day. Make sure you get yourself registered to vote if you're not. And please, family members, co-workers, people you see waiting at the bus stop, get people that you know, help them to get registered to vote. Make sure that they have, whatever you can do. Do your part. People that are in your circle, I know you can't do it with everybody, but do it with enough. If everybody does a little, do something once a week at least to say, hey, I did something to get somebody to register to vote. Mention it to a friend. Mention it to a coworker. Hey, did you register to vote? I mean, we have got, this is it, man. I mean, this is our last stand here. And again, I apologize for not having Matt Gaetz on the podcast. Nothing I could do. It was out of my control. I get just as disappointed as you do when I get hyped up, when I get a big guest on the show. And again, I'm grateful that Congressman Perry and Dr. Carol Swain joined me on the podcast. But I was, I was bummed out when I got the call or I got the email from Matt Gaetz that he had a bail. Which, it sucks, but I understand. Stuff happens. It happens quite a few times. And it's happened a lot more times, guys. I've had some big guests lined up where they bailed, but I didn't announce them because I was afraid that they would bail. And I try to never make the announcement until I'm pretty sure I had it locked in. And I thought I had this one done. But follow me on X at Alec Lace. When I do have guests locked in, I will throw them up there first. And hopefully I'll get Gaetz on here soon. And many other members of Congress, the Senate. I'm working hard to do this, so keep it locked in here to the Alec Lace Show. That's all I got for you guys today. God bless all you parents, you listeners out there. God bless our police, our first responders. God bless our military, veterans. God bless America. And I'll be back here 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, streaming live on Rumble. You'll catch me everywhere else on the replay. Have a great weekend, and God bless.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
Promo code FATHERHOOD. Go to mypillow.com and everything we have on sale there. Actually, we brought in the percale sheets. The queen size, $34.98 a set. King size, $39.98 a set. That's unheard of. It's the lowest price in history. And everything else on there that we have, you can save up to 80%. We don't have any middlemen. We don't have box stores and stuff. They canceled on MyPillow. They even canceled my book to get my book out, So use that promo code FATHERHOOD, everybody, and please help us out, and thanks for ones that you have already helped. And by the way, you'll be helping yourself to the best sleep in history, period.
I got to tell you, that mattress topper is the best product I have in the house, Mike, no doubt.
And that turns any bed into the best bed in history. If you got an old bed, new bed, doesn't matter. You put the mattress topper on there, and it changes everything. You need a different input to get a different output. People waking up every day going, maybe my bed will be better tonight. No, you need a MyPillow mattress.